This is the High Grade Podcast. Let me just meditate really quick. No, I'm just like...
Energy between your fingers.
I'm in the garden right now.
Your vortex.
We're going to welcome Miss Chelsea Lovell with us today on the High Grade Podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for welcome. I mean, no, I'm all messed up.
It's fine.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, I really appreciate you coming out today. And I've been wanting to really sit down with you and get to know you more ever since I met you on the top of the mountain in Willits.
Yes. 2 years ago.
2 years ago. I actually met you. I was looking at work, looking at weed. Mm-hmm. I saw about 10 samples there, and I chose my top two, my top favorite. And then your dad was like, those are my daughters. And I was like, oh. I was like, you have a daughter? He's like, yeah, she has the cultivation, and those are hers. You chose her work. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, that's interesting. I would love to meet your daughter.
That makes me so proud. I'm like, it was so funny. I had some work on the table next to his this year, and the person kept reaching for mine, and my dad was like, whose are those? You know, like, whose are those? Because he said, I'm going to take a couple of these, and then he looked at them, and it got my name on it, you know?
You're right?
Yeah, so he was like, it's always her. It's always her.
I mean, your work really stand out, even among, just the community over in, Mendocino County.
Yes.
And it really says something about the level of cultivation that you're at, which is really awesome. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I'm the main cultivator at Alchemy Gardens. I do everything. I manage everything, and then just make sure everything happens there. I really work alone a lot of the time. I have actually 2 sites. One's in Covelo, one's in Willits. I don't manage the one in Covelo. I just manage the one in Willits. And I'm like, it's like everything, down the chain of command. It's like picking leaves, harvesting, planting, feeding, and just being amongst them,
Yeah, just like caring for the plants year round.
Yes.
Because it's mixed light, correct?
Yeah.
You have some mixed light and some outdoor at Alchemy Gardens, right?
Mixed light is it's like we light deprive, it's like light deprivation. So
it's light dep.
Yes, it's light dep, but it's also, we have light assist. So that's why it's mixed lighting. And then we also have sun grown. So then it's like, we do it all, on
And then
farm.
how large is your cultivation?
It's a 10,000 square foot, and I'm like on a 3-acre plateau, basically, on this mountaintop. And there's actually a couple grows right around me, and I know that they're legal, as well. Mm-hmm. They're permitted. And so it's like I have 10 greenhouses technically. I have 4 100 foot by 30s, 100 by 30s, and then I have a couple 10 by 30s, I believe. I have 6 of those. And
okay. So this is pretty big.
Yeah.
And then you have some outdoor as well.
Yeah, and then I have 34 outdoor plants that I take care of as well. And I'm like, that's where I get once it's all on lock, it's all in tune, and there's everything's running. That's when I get a little crazy in the year. I
Right.
start to lose my mind, and it's like I can't keep a conversation.
Even mixed. I mean, you're running almost year round.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we do. I'm gonna get 3 runs this year.
Oh, 3 runs! Farm. You got 3 runs this year. I mean, that means you're on it.
Yeah. Well, this year I honestly was the least on it as I've ever been on it. But I'm like, so I'm getting 1 greenhouse 3rd run. Because the others will not be harvested in time to plant and get that last run.
But the 3rd run is hard.
I mean,
you have to be it's a timing issue.
It is because Mendocino, it's like we get a really good middle run. Our first run, we get a really good first run, and then it's like the middle run turns into we've been there's a certain time if you plant when we harvest, there's a lull where we have to let the greenhouses sit for a second before we plant again, and we have to do it within a time that isn't going to mess with our 3rd run.
Yeah, but
not mess us up. And I wanted to say fuck,
No, you can't. You can say whatever you want.
Fuck us in the middle run to where it's we plant in the heat, and then it's like the plants don't produce as good as they should. So it's like really,
I mean, and you're working with the environment
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
entire
say,
time.
yes.
And that's what's so special about cultivation, though. I mean, people don't know that about any ag, to be honest. The people that are caring for the actual plants that we are eating or consuming or smoking or I mean, they're so in tuned with the environment.
yes,
And people
we have to be,
Well, we're not recognized for that as much as we should be.
That's
Because
true.
I mean, it's a really cool vibe. First off, and it keeps us really grounded. So we're very grounded people.
Yes.
But also, it's just really to understand that the people that are producing these things are so in tune with everything to produce those things for the masses. I just don't think that like it's connected with everybody yet sometimes.
Yes, I agree. Sometimes I'm like, "Ugh, I'm just a bum who turns a valve on, you know?
Yeah, I know.
But
we're
I'm
all dirty and shit out there.
But honestly, it's like, I know the sun, starts to set on this side in November. So I'm like,
Yeah.
so I know this greenhouse facing this way is going, like we know
Exactly.
about, I feel like there's just so many things that I'm like, just comes naturally to me being the third generation grower that I think is common knowledge that it's like, you're a master, and it's when I hang out with people who aren't cultivators at all that I start to realize how I am set apart from normal people, because I'm so
Exactly.
used to our culture and being so into our culture that it's like, I don't know. It doesn't seem so special to me,
Right. But let's talk about that.
Okay.
What is your first experience with cannabis growing up? Can you remember your first memory, your first ever memory? That's what I want to know.
I think about it all the time because it was like always there. And I didn't start noticing it until my parents, like I started becoming aware and my parents started being like, cover that up. And I'm like, why are you covering that up? So I was like maybe 6 when I was like, why are they covering that up? I'm like, just go about my life, because it never was like anything to me that seemed bad. Like, how does broccoli seem bad to a kid?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So what was your first time you smoked? Like, give me your first experience that you really
I'm
got
actually
high.
a really late bloomer compared to like a lot of people. Like my brothers were like, they were in their preteens,
Yeah.
when they started smoking. And I was 23, just about to turn 24 when I
Okay.
first started smoking. I was like the good girl, you know, and I was just like the cultivator and like not trying to
So
be.
you were cultivating and not even smoking. So,
Yeah.
But so your first experience with cannabis was actually cultivating.
Yeah,
And that
completely.
Because that's still an experience with cannabis is cultivation. So you cultivated and learned the plant first.
Yes.
And then
Not
started
to say that I'm not a
consuming it.
good girl. Sorry, I was just thinking like not to say I'm not a good girl because I smoke or
Yeah, no, I get it.
but
I mean there's a lot of stereotype around.
there was
you know,
a lot of my friends and their families and like were not about it. And so it was something that we really kind of kept to ourselves and kind of like my dad always says like kept our heads below the my dad said keep our heads below the fence line. We're not trying to poke our heads over so we can get shot, basically.
No,
or
I
raided.
mean, for families that, I mean, we all had to go through that because I'm second generation. You're third generation.
Yeah, both my grandparents cultivated as well.
So this
It was just
means
like-
that your grandparents cultivated, your dad cultivated, and now you're third generation. That's my daughters. They're going to be third generation.
yes.
That's so dope.
I'm like,
We know nothing
I know
different.
that like brings so much joy to my heart because I'm like, I'm glad that I'm not the only one. I don't know. I feel so connected to it.
Yeah,
like, in a
I
way.
mean, and it's been a hard life too. There was a lot of things that, we had to learn about, not to talk about, even though we knew it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't a bad thing. We knew that people just didn't feel the same way we did about the plant. Mm-hmm. And so it was interesting, us going to school and then seeing the like, don't do drugs. And it was like cocaine, heroin and weed. And I was just like, whoa, like
Yes.
these people really think this plant is a very bad thing. And so that was even tougher for me growing up.
I know it's so crazy to think about how our culture has changed around it. How like it was such a trip when I was like 27, I think it was, when like there was big money in it and people were starting to see like, wow, this is about to be a really amazing business opportunity for these people who we kind of treated, we kind of treated like,
and got treated like shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Even got, accused, and some people got their kids taken away. I mean, that's no joke.
I know. And then
it went to prison. Like, this is no joke. Like, people's lives were taken.
Yes, my friend's mom was like an AODS worker, alcohols and other drugs. So she would counsel people on how to get off drugs, and then she'd be like, I'd be coming over to her house and she knew what I did, and it's like, I kind of feel like shame me in a way, like, and not purposefully, just like it's her own way of being like, oh, what you guys do isn't like us, or something.
I mean, exactly.
And then that's the person that would come to me and be like, wow, what an amazing business opportunity you guys built for yourselves, So
it's come like, full circle.
Yes, that was a trip for me, definitely, to like see the stigma change in our culture.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we really just watched it transform over the last 10 years.
Yes.
Into something completely different.
And ever since like the bubble pop, like there's been a bubble pop, and I'm like, ever since then, people have treated me differently even now. Like, so it's like been like kind of a roller coaster, So.
No, I totally agree. I live in Napa, so they're like, oh, you have a weed crop? And they have vineyards.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, and you have a vineyard? I'm like, that's cool. So we're just like, we have agricultural crops. Yes, we do. And then, so you grew up, when did you first start like knowing that you wanted to be in cultivation?
Right around Prohibition, I guess. It was kind of like, we'd been doing this kind of under the table for so long, and we have just gone through it all. Like, we've literally gone through everything you can go through being 3 generations in, and we were like, all right, we'll put our money into something and get out, and I remember coming to my dad, and I was like going to college, and I was getting my AA in communications to transfer to a film school, and I was like gonna go into film, and be a director. And my dad was like talking about like what he was thinking of like his new venture, and I was like, why don't we be a part of Prohibition, And he was like, okay, let's do it. And so that's kind of like how I really got developed into it, like I became a part of it. Then it was kind of like a family decision of, and like,
you guys decided,
let's hang up our hats or let's go all in, and so we went all in, and we're still here. And
it's really cool because your dad and mom have a cultivation. Your brother has his cultivations, and then you have your cultivations.
Yeah, my older brother actually manages my younger brother's cultivations as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's like what my younger brother kind of ventured off on his own thing, doing like water truck runs, but it's all like literally integrated into what we do agriculturally. And so
that's amazing.
Yeah, so we're all really involved with each other. And I'm like,
it's so interesting that. I mean, I think
it's a family business for sure.
I mean, I know because me and my brother, we cultivated together for the last 5 years. We did our first acre together in 2020. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. Like we went from the mountaintop, like doing 200, 300 plants mountaintop in the back of, crazy places to like having an acre, and we were just like, but it was crazy. It was like a lot. It was way more than I thought, like way more work. It was just it was crazy because I should have started with half an acre, to be honest.
I'm like, an acre is so much.
It was too much, honestly, and we didn't even do it again. We took a year off afterward because I was just like, whoa, that was insane to do 800 outdoor plants.
It is like, I can't imagine like how it felt amongst those plants as well.
It was so ridiculous. But it was such a good experience for me and him to like actually be out there and not. Well, I was actually still worried for the first 2 years. Like I had anxiety on my cultivation, even though we had a license. Mm-hmm. I still was just like nervous and like wondering if they were gonna come.
We felt the same way always. Like, no matter what precautions we took, no matter how like involved we were, I think there's always gonna be this thing of like,
there's some PTSD there.
Are they coming? Yeah.
There's some major PTSD.
The helicopters. Yeah.
Oh my God.
The helicopters
come in. We're like,
hide. And I'm like, I don't have to.
No,
You're
we don't
fine.
have to. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah, we're fine. I'm supposed to be here.
But that's, it's a real thing. You know what I mean? For all of us right now, we're only 3-4 years in. to being legal, all of us, so and we're second and third generation. So we've had generations of, this kind of having to hide and things like that, this beautiful plant. And now it's for the first time, this is a historical moment right now, actually, with just me and you, because, I'm pretty big cultivator in Lake. You're a really big cultivator in Mendocino. Both of our families are involved. And then we kind of connected and
I know.
We're both females.
I think it's awesome.
And I think it's super dope because, and I actually wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Like how do you, what is your biggest challenge in the cannabis industry?
This is a good one because I wonder, I think it's just being a female, like
That
I
is
think
a challenge, huh?
Well, I think it's just like because I never know like how somebody's going to perceive me, and then like once they perceive you a certain way, it's like you have to deal with that perception the entire time, and it's like you have to set your boundaries and stuff like that. And I think that's been like my biggest struggle. But to say that is like kind of lame, because it's like I deal with them crazy problems, but I'm like I much rather deal with those problems than with like I guess social people. That's my hardest problem. And like
what
being
has
a female,
been one of the challenges? Have you ever had anybody be like, oh,
I had this buyer like come in one time and he saw me, and somebody I had never met him before, and I hate selling, like sales are not my thing. And he was like, oh, do I get a massage with this? And I'm just like,
excuse me?
You just walked into my house and that's what you say
and
to
you're
me?
trying to buy my weed and you want a massage too, homie?
Oh my gosh,
like,
yes.
You gotta go.
Yeah, I was just like, I could not believe it. I could not believe it.
Price increase.
And I just like, I feel like that's like, I just expect that almost now with every interaction.
I mean, there's some men who just don't even want to work with me because I'm a female.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, they just don't even want to work with me. And I'm just like, okay, well, you're not going to make money. You're not going to make the money that you can make with me then. Fine. And then some men have actually come back around, and because they have to keep seeing me everywhere.
Yeah,
and,
you're
people
out
are
here doing
talking
it.
about it and everything, and they're like, oh, okay. And it's like, yeah, but it's definitely, you definitely have to earn the respect as a woman. You don't just go into a room and you're not given that.
I agree completely.
So once you earn it, and I mean, we're willing to earn, but that's like where we have to start. Because it's a definitely male-dominated industry, and because it was dangerous before, there wasn't a lot of women in the industry, cultivating, sales, distribution, anything, logistics. There was no women involved, barely any. There was like maybe 5%.
Yeah, I remember we were getting together a delivery dispensary at one point, and they were like, "You can't have female drivers." I was like, the people who were helping us set it up and stuff, they were like. It was in Oakland, and they were like,
dangerous.
They really don't feel comfortable having women drivers. Like, so it's like they would have cops come around and like teach us like, what's the best way to keep your truck safe, or your delivery van safe, and it was like, don't be a female. Like that was one of the things.
I mean,
like,
totally, because. And now that we're seeing a lot of like women emerge for sure, but it's been a long time coming for this industry because it was so dangerous before, because due to prohibition. I mean, prohibition made it more dangerous because they weren't willing to legalize anything, even medical, for so long that they kind of made it a dangerous place.
Yeah, that I was women. Like, what did you expect was going to be the outcome?
Exactly.
I agree completely. It definitely like. Prohibition definitely hit the ground running, and we had to keep up with it.
Definitely. And legalization was interesting because it was so up and down. And I mean, even I'm sure that your family felt it the first time you went to go pay your taxes, to have your grow. It's like, are they really going to give this to us? Are we going to give us, we're going to give them this money right now, but are they really going to allow this?
I remember being in like the sheriff's program when they had it before agriculture took it over, and we would buy zip ties for our plants, and they were like, just put these around the stalk of your plant. And we were like, they're coming. Like we would buy them and give them our address and everything. And we'd be like,
I can't believe
are they going to follow us home? Are they going to follow us home?
I know, me too. We were like on the application, like, okay, this is our address. You know what I mean? And like when you just say this is us and this is where we're cultivating, it's like you give everything up. And it was very, It was an interesting psychology.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. The people don't understand that for the
I know.
generational growers.
They do not.
It has completely changed. And I mean, you know, I like to think that we're all built off outlaws, you know?
No, it's the truth. And the county's like, well, why don't you just come on down here? And it's like, well, we're a little nervous to come down there with $25,000 to pay our taxes right now. Do you have a money counter available?
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so many moments in our lives. Like my family, we have some stories where it's like the government's like organized crime. You just bring in a like bag of cash and like they're like, we'll take it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yes. I was like, okay.
No questions asked later, right? Like,
even dollar bills are taking.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what denomination at this point.
Yes.
It's crazy. What kind of advice would you give other women that want to be in the industry?
I think it's like way more acceptable than it's ever been. And like I said, even going to your event, seeing how many female cultivators there are, I was like, dude, we got this. Like, finally, the female energy is getting in this plant energy and we're going to like take it somewhere, you know? But
that's beautiful.
What would I say for them? I'd say like, it's all about the connection. You know, it's all about energy and it's all about the vibe. Mm-hmm. Like, if it feels right, get it, you know?
Exactly. If it feels right, get it. That's great advice for women that want to be in cannabis, because there's a lot of young women. And I would say that today is a day where they're going to see two females that look like them and that they can feel vibrationally and in frequency. And so definitely, ladies, you heard her. She said it best. If you feel it's right, go get it.
Go get it.
You got it. I think that's amazing.
I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something on that, but I totally forgot it.
No, is there other things that you would tell young women?
I remember my first time like seeing a female cultivator. Like my mom was following her on Instagram and she showed me her and she was talking about like how she feels empowered and sexy. And it's like in her activewear in her farm. And I was like, I thought only men were allowed, you know, to share stuff like that. Like, I don't know.
So that was an actual thought that you had.
It was, yes. Like it literally broke through that barrier that I placed on myself based on a, you know, connotation I had with our culture and our industry. And I was like, I can share, you know, I can share my body, my femininity, my work, you know, like that. And we stepped into my womanhood. And like, that was where I was like, that's such a like profound idea, to be stepped into my womanhood, doing something that I've watched all these men work really hard and prove themselves in.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get to prove my femininity in this as well. And I was
that's
like,
beautiful.
Yeah, I remember that. So I just am like, to all those women, get out there and get it. Like, it really is like I said, if the energy's on, the energy's on. Like,
yeah, the energy's there. And I mean, to be honest, I really found myself in the garden.
So did I. Completely.
I completely found who I was as a woman growing cannabis.
Yes.
It was crazy. And I really felt like such a feminine, strong energy when I was out there. It was beautiful. And even like my whole like sexual energy, like creative energy, it was just, I really did find that in the garden.
It's so connecting to your kundalini, you know, like so I'm not kidding. Amazing. Like I agree completely. Like there's so many things I can say, you know, like about it, but I feel like I feel
like a queen when I'm cultivating out there. I just feel like so good, and it helped me to like see myself for who I truly am.
Completely. Yes, it does. I think, you know, I remember going through this breakup, and that's like kind of when I first started smoking cannabis. I was going through this breakup and I was like, all right, I don't like who I am. Like, he broke up with me because I'm not who I want to be, you know, and I'm not secure in myself. And I remember like just trying everything that I could, you know, like, I mean, smoking, and that was like my first time. And then like, it was like such a spiritual awakening, as well as like with that, like whole experience of, you know, my first time trying cannabis, and then like delving into that, as well as like, me and my whole family, we used to cultivate together. We used to work on the same farm. My mom, my sister, me, and my parents adopted a young girl, not on paper, but like when we were younger. So we used to work all together. You know, my family always adds people in. And I was just like singing. I remember singing like through my heartbreak to the plants. And I really felt like such a strong connection with the plants that I was like, it healed me. Like it literally healed me.
The plants are so much stronger than we think. Because we're
Their
like,
energy,
we're like, we're growing them, but they're actually dominating us in like spiritual and metaphysical ways. It's so amazing, the energy out in the fields.
Yes, I agree. Like I have to walk through my farm every morning and night, you know, that's like my ritual to do. So just so I can see the change and I can understand, you know, it's like, I say I'm in practice constantly. I'm in, you know, gaining experience in the field. And so when I just see the subtle changes from morning to night, I literally feel like in the next day when I see them change, I feel changed. So then it's like, beautiful. I know, I'm like, watching them grow, it literally grows like who I want to be inside. So I'm like, cultivation is like cultivation of the soul. Like,
yeah, no. And I've had so many experiences now because I've worked with the plant in so many different ways now, from nursery to cultivation to sales to manufacturing. Yeah. And we have a huge terpene thing going on now. So now I'm learning like aromatics, like to the fullest, and then now retail, and I'm getting to express myself in brands. So I'm like making my way through the supply chain, and I'm just so grateful to have the experience.
I think that's so cool that you get to gain that experience too. Like that should show you're a master and you deserve to be here, and anybody would be lucky to work with you.
Thank you so much. And I was thinking, like, what is it? I mean, we don't have like degrees for master cultivators.
We don't. Yeah. Like, I think there's like some certificates you can get.
I don't know.
I'm like,
I don't even believe in those.
I don't either.
You can't be a master cultivator unless you have been growing for at least 10 seasons.
Yes.
And you've made $1 million off of the weed that you grew.
I think that's a very good definition to a master grower.
Only thing, because they told me, I have a master grower certificate, and I was like, you don't have a master grower certificate from me unless you've had 10 seasons and you've made $1 million off of your cannabis, because that means it has what it needs to have for people to enjoy.
Yes.
You know, because
anybody can grow.
Anybody can grow, but can they grow quality?
Yes. It's like your procedures and qualities is what really matters.
Exactly.
You know?
Which is what stood out to me with you, because, you know, I went into Mendocino and I buy from all the boys, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty picky. And so I'm like, nope. And I'm like, yes.
I'm like, I was so happy to hear that you chose mine that day.
Whose weed is this? And it was yours. I was like, no way. I was like, well, I just didn't even have to say anything. And the boys are like, she outdid us.
That was actually a record-breaking year for me.
Really?
Yes, I remember it was before I had just gotten my greenhouses. So it was like so exciting to like finally grow in them. And I went way too big. And I'm like, I'm dealing with that right now because it's like so much work when you let your plants get to a size that is like unmanageable. But I'm like, the plants know what they're doing, you know? And it's like, if you have a solid strain, like the lemon head that year, you know, like that sour.
So it was the lemon head OG, but that was crossed with sour.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yes. It was so good.
Those were monster plants.
The structure on that weed was phenomenal. The structure and the lime green and the taste on it. I actually tasted that. I tasted your weed with 2 different brands. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was 2 different brands. And I was like, hey, what do you guys think about this? This is my favorite this week. And like, they were just like, where'd you get this? And I was like, well, you would never guess. I was like, she is a girl that grows over in Willits, and I saw everybody's, you know, cannabis that day. And neighbors too, like community people too. I saw that day, and I was just like, "Whoa, your weed was stand out. It was just sparkling."
Thank you. My gosh, that really does make me feel so happy.
I am so picky, you know. Yes. Like you don't get high grade certified on our menu unless it's fire.
I remember you saying that one of the first times I met you. Like you were kind of like, the guys think I got the pick, you know. Like I know what I'm doing, so I feel so like blessed for you to say that to me, you know, that compliment.
I mean, it's really just what it is, you know, because of the quality that you're coming out with. Like you're in the top 10 in
it's so funny. That's
Mendocino County.
That's one of the hardest things too as a woman in this industry is to get recognition, you know, and I feel like I've been consistent in like trying to show my quality and that I have,
It's
some
right
stake in
there.
the game,
And you haven't even went into any cups or anything.
Not,
you would probably win. I mean, in the community, we all know. I mean, I know. You can just look and know.
I kind of feel like, like my place is like, because I don't sell, like, so I let my family members kind of take that over. And it's like mine. I always try to grow strains that leave the table as soon as they touch the table,
Yeah,
so then it draws them in, and my parents can kind of focus more on cultivator strains that are like less labor, more that just grow beautifully, and
exactly. I mean, we're gonna look at some of your weed today, actually.
But I'm also a fan, I'm also a very big fan of strains, and like, so then it's so funny because it's a family thing. It's like I have my brother, my dad, and mom, and all these other people that we, are in the works with that come to our nursery and like choose strains. And we sit there being like, okay, these moms can produce this many of these and we'll all want the same strain. So we'll be sitting there fighting over the cuts. You know?
That is so funny because you guys, I saw the video you sent me of the R&D. Mm-hmm. So basically you guys have a huge greenhouse for R&D where you're breeding different strains.
Yes.
And so you guys are going in there together and picking which ones you want.
Yeah, it's so funny. That's what
so
makes it so
fun.
awesome that it's a family thing, because it's like we all have kind of our own like flavors we like, our own little characteristics we like. And because we've been in the game so long that we can just look at a plant and be like, I like that one,
Yeah, that one's
and then
gonna
it's like,
be
let me smell it, and we all choose different ones, or sometimes we'll choose similar ones. And it's like really interesting to see how like all our different tastes come together and we get to choose,
That's so
everything.
cool that you guys are breeding varietals right there and then able to go to multiple cultivations with these varietals.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I mean, this is a high end industry. And that is what, like vineyards don't even get to breed their own varietals and choose what they want to grow on their vineyards.
Yes.
Like this is like a top level, cultivation and cannabis culture. And it's beautiful.
I mean, it's the most like the only way that made sense for us, honestly. Like, I've been dabbling in tissue culture a little bit.
What did you think?
I think it's super hard to stay like sterile, like keep everything super sterile. There's like microscopic bugs you can't see that will get in and fuck your shit up, know? But
so you guys are starting to do tissue culture.
Yes, but see, that's where I'm like, it is so complex, but it isn't at the same time. I think there's just a lot of misinformation on the internet, and it's like you can find any answer you want to on the internet. So if you're like, can I get this strain to be viroid free? And they'll say yes, but it's not that simple.
It's not 100%.
Yes, it's not that simple.
I would know because I've done whole cultivations on tissue culture, and I've been messing with 3 different tissue culture labs, and I've been testing things out and seeing things. And I'm not a breeder, but I'm definitely a pheno hunter.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah,
I'm definitely a pheno hunter. I'm not a breeder, but a pheno hunter. When I see something and I'm like, ooh, I want that. Like that's the one.
That's how you know you're a master grower.
Yeah.
When you could just be like, it has something. I know.
Yeah, exactly. What has been like one of your biggest successes in cannabis, like personally and professionally?
That's a hard one too. That's like really, because it's like I have so many successes and like failures every day, and it's hard to see. It's hard to pinpoint, honestly. Like, honestly, last year, I remember telling my younger brother, like, I kind of feel like a rock star, because I came from the theater, culture in college where it's like directing is very like, we build a spine, and off that spine we work our beats, and stuff like that. And so it's like, I see the garden a lot like that, and I felt like I literally wrote down no dates last year. That's why I told my brother I felt like a rock star, because I wrote down no dates last year, and I felt like I just orchestrated everything perfectly. Yes, that I just like was able to like harvest and plant and get everything done without any organization.
It was like in harmony with you, though, and you knew the plants so well. You knew exactly.
I think that's my biggest success that I can actually think of right now is like just being able to feel it, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
being able to feel in harmony with what you're doing with
yes,
the
and
earth.
succeed that way, you know? That was my biggest success, is just like realizing it's in me, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. So, are there any practices that you incorporate into your growing methods that are super important that you can share?
Yes, I think this one I was thinking of is living soil. You know, like I think that before I even knew anything about living soil, the quality of our produce, you know, it's produce. That's what it is. You know, it was
Exactly.
not up to par, and it's like the living soil completely changes, I think, cultivation, you know, and like it gives the plant everything that it needs. Like you can sit there and feed it whatever you want to all day long, but without these beneficial microbials, it's like nothing will take up into
all
that
the
plant. Yeah, you
micronutrients.
need living soil. And so it's like that kind of has been like a new technique that not new, it's not new at all, but I'm like, it's
For
something that I've
your licensed
incorporated
cultivation.
in the past few years that I'm like, it needs to be a practice that everyone does, you know?
Feeding the soil.
Yes.
And
microbes, you know? Yeah.
And
microbials.
How are you feeding the soil? Like, what are you doing to like?
I don't top dress. That's so funny because I've been dabbling. Like I have like I call it my extracurricular. You know? I do a couple plants at home, you know, and I experiment, you know, so I do completely organic. Alchemy is all natural, not organic. We use advanced nutrients, which I think it has another process in it that takes it from being organic, that makes it, but it's still all natural food.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I basically mix my nutrients in my water medium, and then I feed through irrigation or by hand, actually.
The outdoors.
The outdoor, yes. I have to do by hand. Yeah. That's why I got so burnt this year. Oh my gosh.
Really?
I went to Oregon for like 3 days. Or no, it was like 5 days. I was only supposed to go for 3 days, but I ended up being 5 days. And I came back and worked went straight to the outdoor and just burned because it was like
115 up there.
Yeah, it was freezing in Oregon, you know. So it was like I came back to this extreme weather thinking I could just jump back into it, and my body was like, nope.
No.
But I love that alchemy, you know, handcrafted. I really believe that. You know, I think about that every time in my quality, every time I hand feed, you know.
Oh, I mean, for me, I'm like a metaphysical type of person. Mm-hmm. So when I smoke people's weed that they really put a lot of love into and energy, I could feel it.
Yes.
I'm like, whose weed is
love
this?
Love is the recipe.
Yeah, I'm like, this weed is so good. And there's a reason why. You know, and there's a lot of love and attention.
There's a lot of like stuff coming out about water and how like water holds memory.
It holds memory.
Yes, and so like it's so funny. I will sit there and sing.
Pray on the water.
Yes, I'm singing to the water, and I'll be like, this is gonna be the best run ever for me. I'm like, bless my plants, I love you.
That's so dope.
Yeah.
So what are you planning on doing? How do you want to evolve in the future? Like, how are you going to evolve over the next 5 years?